it's not just enough to just target pew, 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 different criteria. You need to know which criteria is worth targeting. This is what happened a few weeks ago. And by a few weeks, I don't know how many weeks because my memory is a little short. So this person, he got an RFE on his case and he wanted a second pair of eyes. And he came to me to review his RFE as well as his petition. And whenever I review these RFEs and these petitions, I'm always channeling my social science brain, which used to publish research and would get R&R, which is, for the uninitiated, it's not rest and relaxation, it's revise and resubmit. This is when you have made an attempt to publish a paper and the reviewers have read it and they're fully not convinced. So they have given you comments and now you need to address them. So I'm always channeling that part of my brain when I'm looking at these RFEs, that clearly this USCIS officer has received your petition, but they are not fully convinced, either based on your arguments, based on your evidences, or a mix of both. So whenever I'm reading these RFEs, I'm keeping that thought process in mind. Now, when I was reading this RFE, the first question that I asked this individual was, even before reading the RFE, I said, let's call him, what do we call him? Let's call him Thomas. So I asked Thomas, did you work with an immigration attorney? They said, yes, they worked with an immigration attorney. I said, how did you select them? Usual, they said, oh, my friends got approvals through them. That's why I thought I'm going to go with them. Fair. And I said, okay, beyond that, what kind of ownership did you have on your petition? Like, how much did you rely, how much was your feedback taken versus how much did they drive the boat? And they said, oh, they drove the boat, because I really did not have any idea about EB1. I was like, okay. Then I asked him one of the most crucial questions that I ask everybody when I'm reviewing their petition, even before that. I asked, how many criteria did you claim? And number two, what criteria were those? And number three, how did the petition start? Ideally, according to data and according to my interviews with several lawyers, I have interviewed close to 7 to 11 lawyers now, and I have hosted events in the hundreds. I really don't know how many events I've hosted, because I've been hosting events since 2022 with lawyers. But according to their consensus, a solid EB1 case is a focused EB1 case. And when you're focusing on an EB1 case, there are only 4 to 5 criteria that you target. Okay. Now, 4 to 5 is the sweet spot. Sometimes people do 6, sometimes people do 7. They discourage you to do 3 because that's the bare minimum. But 4 to 5 solid criteria is where the sweet spot lies. And these are not just any random criteria. There are criteria where you have more sway on the approvability of the case. And those criteria are, number 1, critical role if you're working in corporate. Number 2, original contributions of major significance, because what better way to show that you're an original besides the fact that you made an original contribution. Number 3 is lawyers will, even though salary is a tricky criteria, they will sometimes use salary to support critical role. In the external facing side of criteria, they will more often than not claim judging, because it's a straightforward criteria. And they will also claim authorship and or conference talks as comparable evidence for exhibits. Right? So these are more or less the most common criteria that a profession, that a industry-based profile will hover around. And number 3, what I have seen lawyers do, and which I agree with, is open the petition with critical role, because that is the basis of your entire profession. I asked these 3 questions to this individual. Guess what this individual said? This individual said that their lawyers claimed 10 criteria, all 10 criteria. Oh, is this like an all-you-can-eat Indian buffet that you're claiming all 10 criteria? Not only did they claim all 10 criteria, in lieu of which they also claimed memberships, they claimed media, and they claimed awards. And worst case scenario, they started the petition with awards, because according to the USCIS policy manual, the first criteria that they list is awards, when there are no rules and regulations ever mentioned in the USCIS manual saying that your petition needs to start with awards. So this individual was set up for failure from jump. Because you have to realize that, number 1, not all criteria are worth your while. There are certain criteria, not according to conjecture, but according to data, have shown trends of repeatedly being pushed back by USCIS. And those criteria are, number one, memberships, and number two, media, and number three, awards. I'll tell you why memberships, media, and awards are being pushed back according to insights that I've gathered from immigration experts in the field. Number one, memberships. Now, when you look at the fine print of what USCIS has written, it will usually tell you whenever they give you an RFE or they give you a pushback, they'll ask you to cite the bylaws. They want to know on what basis you were selected to be in this membership club. It has to recognize your extraordinary ability. And I did an immigration AMA with Jokabed Boteo, an immigration attorney. She said that in recent RFE responses, she has even seen USCIS hone in on certain words in the bylaws. If the bylaws says or instead of and, they will push back on that. All of this is to say that the regulations, in my non-legal brain, what I think about this is as the regulations that USCIS has put forth in memberships is squishy. It's not rigid like judging where it has boom, boom, boom. These are the things that you need to show. This is very crystallized. This one is amorphous, which gives them more room to push back. It gives them more room to be subjective in their decision making. So best not to touch and poke the tiger. Why would you go for a criteria which you know has a track record of being RFE'd so much and target that as one of the main criteria, front and center? Maybe you can do it as a fifth or sixth by the time they have decided their minds that, you know, three criteria have already been satisfied or four criteria has been satisfied. Maybe membership falls through the cracks, no harm, no foul. But to choose membership as one of the main criteria that you're hinging your EB1 profile on is precarious of a decision. Number two, media. I took a course by immigration attorney Marianne Carney. I always remember her name, Marianne Kearney, I think, because she said Kearney attorney. Anyways, so she said that media is one of the criteria that is most susceptible to spam and junky evidence because people can pay for media. People can claim that some no-name media is major media. A lot of these metrics can be made up. A lot of these metrics raise the fraud signals in the minds of a USCIS officer. So for you to say that, oh, I already have critical role, I have original contributions, let me check off media, let me pay some PR firm to write my name, it may not sway the needle. As a matter of fact, it invites more scrutiny sometimes. And number three, awards. Now, a lot of times I have seen people not only claim awards, but also put shit like Indian Achievers Award honoree in their LinkedIn bio, or some fellow, and some next gen leader 100 in their LinkedIn profile. I'm like, dude, everybody from a mile away with a modicum of cerebral ability knows that you have paid for this award. We know it. What are you flexing about? What are you flexing about? Stop leading with evidence that are pay for play. This is not the game of vanity. It's a game of value. So lead with that. And USCIS understands that. This is the reason why when I was reading some approved cases where I wanted to gather evidence of what are some of the what are the instances in which USCIS approves awards. And I read close to like 15 or 20-ish AAO cases. And in those AAO cases, one of the trends that I repeatedly noticed is USCIS is more prone to grant you the awards criteria if you come from two types of backgrounds. Number one, arts, and number two, sports. So if you're in the arts, if you're a director, if you're a writer, or if you're in the sports where you are like, you know, in the NBA or in the NFL and you have won the player of the tournament award, or if you have won the Pulitzer Award or the Booker Prize, something which are A, well-known markers of excellence, and number two, are richly covered in traditional media. Those are the kind of profiles that are more prone to getting their awards approved. But for a senior electrical engineer working for a grid company, getting a CIO Next 100 award or Marquis Who's Who, really? Really? Like, you have done other important work. Flex on that. Sell that to the market for the benefit of the field rather than heaping these vanity awards, paying for it, and then flexing about it front and center in your EB1 profile, and then being flabbergasted by the fact that somehow you received an RFE or worse, a denial. Really, dude? Like, I don't need to be a USCIS officer or a lawyer to smell this bullshit from a mile away. So before you make a plan of like targeting criteria, know which criteria is worth targeting for and know how many are criteria you need to target. You really don't need to do much in EB1, but you need to do good work that is of substance. I hope this helped.